her taking a shot at a women in manufacturing event at 11 o'clock in the morning. She did tell me she threw it out over her shoulder. But Bank of America is an amazing supporter of manufacturers, and we do support women in manufacturing, even if it is throwing it right over your shoulder, right, Nancy?
You got it.
We have Eli Spayu, thank you. Eli is the Deputy District Director, SBA, the Massachusetts District. And fun fact about Eli is he was Worcester Business Journal's 40 under 40.
40 years ago.
So, and then we have Lily Fitzgerald, Director of Center for Advanced Manufacturing Mass Technology Collaborative. Obviously the youngest on the panel and probably the smartest too, right, Lily? So please everybody give them a round of applause. I also do want to just let you know about your MassMEP team. In here we have Ron Giard, who's handling the camera over there. He's a business development advisor at MassMEP, so if you have any questions about building and efficiencies on the shop floor, he's your man. He's been in industry for 35 years, and no, he does not dye his hair. I had to do it, Ron. I had to, sorry. And then we have Sarah O'Brien on our team. So Sarah is our grants coordinator, and she's somebody you want to talk to after Lily gets up and gives her presentation. She monitors all of our MMAP awards, does all of the reporting for that. So she is adept in everything grants, and especially Workforce Training Fund grants as well. So that is my team. And I'm Christy Grignon. I probably should have started with introducing myself. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development at MassMEP. So we're going to have a little fun with this, and I want
She does shots too.
Only if Nancy's there. So pull those phones back out, and I'm going to have you guys start just a quick little poll just to get to know you guys in the room a little bit better. Also with this, you can take a picture of our panel and post it on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. This is supposed to work live, but we are at the DCU, so how good is their Wi-Fi is the question. You guys participating? There you go. All right, we got some under 20s. 100% under 20 employees. This is where Eli gets his dad jokes.
Usually.
Here we go. Now we're rolling. 20 to 49, 100 and plus. No 50 to 99s yet. What kind of investments are you considering in the next 12 months? We have new equipment, we have automation or technology. A couple are not sure yet. What's the biggest barrier you're facing when it comes to accessing capital? Don't know what's available. Application process feels complicated. Credit or qualification concerns. Cash flow timing. Hesitation about taking one more risk. Which of these programs have you used or applied for before? So we've got a bunch of Bank of America. We've got some MMAP and M2I2, and none of these yet. So you guys are here to learn. That's great. Excellent. All right, thank you guys for that. So we'll head back into the presentations now, and just to give you guys just a little, what we're gonna do today. So each one of them is gonna come up for about 10 to 15 minutes and give you a presentation on what they have to offer. After that, we'll leave a little bit time for any questions that you guys have. The microphone is up there and ready to go. We're a smaller room, so I'm pretty sure you guys can yell it out loud if you have any questions. But we do want this to be interactive and engaging. If you don't feel comfortable asking questions in front of everybody, at the end we will break out into 3 groups so you guys can have them one-on-one and ask them specific questions. So just some rules and engagement, but please feel free to raise your hand and talk to us. right. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna bring Nancy up here. We're gonna start with Bank of America because for most manufacturers, a banking relationship is the foundation everything else gets built on. Even if grants and SBA financing end up in the mix, your bank is usually your first call. So come on up here, Nancy is our first call.
So thank you everyone for attending today. Thanks to MassMep, Christy and her team for hosting us. I have a number of colleagues in the room that are also going to be available to answer any of your questions. They, on their name tag, have the red sponsor ticket. And I also wanted to thank Mike Guerin he's our Bank of America Worcester Market President, for attending. Mike is very active in the community, attends a lot of events. So Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So as we look at, can I take this off?
Yeah. Just don't go far with it.
Thank you. So, as clients are looking, as companies are looking to grow, they're looking for access to capital. And there's a number of layers of capital that you can attain. The first, obviously, is equity. That's your cash infusion into your business. I'm going to address what is considered senior debt and the different types of capital that banks provide. And then my colleagues are going to address other levels of capital. So as we look at a company and the different types of debt a bank will provide you, there's just a few recaps here. So the first one is a line of credit. And a line of credit is for companies to support their current asset expansion. When you are building something, you have to acquire raw materials, you have to convert that into a finished product, and then you push it out the door and bill whoever bought it for you. So that consumes capital along the way, in addition to acquiring those assets and developing or creating the receivable. You're paying your people that are creating the product for you. So the bank provides working capital lines of credit just to allow you to support that flow of goods, the acquisition, manufacture, and sale. And as you can see, a working capital line of credit is flexible, it goes up and down, and the interest rate is variable. The key considerations really are that it's renewed annually. And the one thing I will say, if you do have a line of credit to pay attention to is it a committed line or is it on demand? And if your line of credit is on demand, that means that the bank could call that line for any reason through no fault of your own. And at Bank of America, we do provide committed lines of credit because we feel like we're entering into an agreement with our client and we want them to know they have those funds available for the time that we have committed them. Next, we do term loans, and term loans are for a fixed asset because when you acquire a fixed asset, it is going to depreciate over time, and what you want to be able to do is pay for that asset as it depreciates, because chances are, once it's depreciated and you get a couple more years out of it, it's going to need to be replaced. So if you didn't amortize your term debt, you're going to still owe on an asset that doesn't have the value it had when it was acquired, and you're going to need to buy another one. So a term loan is ideal for people buying assets to produce their products. And following into that is equipment leasing. And equipment leasing is another form of providing financing for those assets that produce your products. The difference between an equipment loan and leasing is generally an equipment loan, a bank senior debt equipment loan, Eli will discuss SBA equipment loans, they're a little different, requires 20% down, where an equipment leasing, we will finance 100% plus some of the soft costs. My equipment leasing partner, Ian Williams, is in the back of the room. If anyone has any questions, feel free to follow up with him after. And finally, our commercial real estate loans. And as your business grows, you're occupying space. And hopefully it continues to grow, you need more space. Well, if you think about it, when you're paying rent to a third party, you're building a nest egg for your landlord. So why not build a nest egg for yourself? And so we work with clients who are looking to acquire real estate to occupy. We consider it owner-occupied real estate. We ask the clients to put 20% equity in, very similar to buying a house, and then we provide the 80% financing. That's done on a fixed rate. Granted, fixed rates change over time. My clients that bought in 2018, 2019 and have mortgages in the 3% range love me. Clients today, it's a little better than it was a year ago, but it's still 5 to 6. Which if you look over the life or 25-year life of interest rates, that's still a very good rate. It's just a little culture shock if you bought a piece of real estate in 2018. So, but the idea behind that fixed rate is it's a fixed payment. Just like you make a rent payment, you're making that payment to yourself to pay the bank back, but you can factor that in and you do not run the risk of that payment fluctuating if the interest rate environment does change. And we also, Bank of America is a preferred lender for the SBA. We do 504 loans, we do equipment loans, 7A loans, but Eli is an expert at that, and I am not, so I've always learned that you defer to the expert. So we'll move right along, and you can cover all of that and more. Okay, and so as you start to think about access to capital, what does your business need? And if you look, there's a number of different reasons people borrow. To start up a company, again, limited borrowing, it should mostly be equity capital, seasonal lulls and needs, large purchases, to improve your cash flow. And so we like to try to structure our credit facilities to meet those needs. And again, we talked about a term loan, that's if you're making a large purchase. A working capital line is perfect for a seasonal company. You borrow as you need to build your inventory. It's summer now. The ice cream manufacturers started borrowing in March or April, and now they're pushing the product out the door, billing, they're gonna start collecting, and they'll pay that line down. So you really wanna understand what that cash is being used for in order to provide the proper financing source. And so now I'm dating myself, because when I started, it was the 3 C's of credit. We're now up to the 6 C's of credit. So it used to be cash flow, collateral, and character. As you can see, capacity is the same as cash flow. It's the ability to pay the loan. And at the end of the day, that is the top one here, and that cash flow is always going to be king. Because a bank is not acting responsibly if it lends more money to you than you can pay back. So we want to fully understand how you generate cash, what your cash flow cycle looks like, and structure the debt in a way that you can pay it back. The capital part here, that is the equity that I mentioned early on, what you use to start your business. That means you're invested. Banks very often on a term loan will loan 80%. We only expect you to put in 20. That's a pretty good ratio, 4 to 1. And so, but it does mean you have some skin in the game. And I know when my children were going off to college, we made them take out those little Stafford loans. It meant nothing compared to the tuition, but it just meant a little skin in the game. And when you have a little skin in the game, you have a little more emphasis and a little more interest sometimes when things, you might not like it or it gets a little tough or whatever. And then the communication key, that's a new one, kind of rolls into character, but it really is. When you're borrowing from a bank, you want to be a partner. We want to be your partner, and we want those lines of communication to always be open. We want to understand if you're hitting a bump. We hope you call us because you just got a big order and you need to increase your line. But the key is to always work hand in hand and keep that line of communication open. Okay, and then this one's a little more complicated on understanding your cash flow, and I never liked it when I was in school and they read the slide to me. And I know Christy said everyone will get a copy of this, but it really goes back to how you create that cash flow cycle with purchasing your raw material, manufacturers purchasing your raw materials, converting it to a finished product, billing your clients, shipping it out and billing them. And on the other side, there's a payable, because you bought, just like your clients are buying your product, you bought components or raw materials or something from another company. So you need to pay them as well. And the delta on a line of credit really becomes because the inventory receivable time frame, depending on the length of time it takes you to produce your product, that's always going to be longer than net 30. So you're using cash to generate cash, ultimately with the collection of that receivable, but it is taking some time to generate the product, to bill it, to collect. And in the meantime, someone on the other end would like to be paid quicker. So that understanding that cash flow cycle is really key to understanding how much working capital financing you might need at any given time. And as I mentioned earlier, with a seasonal company, they bring product in during a specific season, manufacture, sell it out. They're not buying product again, so their line of credit will ebb and flow based on those seasonal needs. Other clients that have a steady flow and are growing, that line of credit will stay at a certain level outstanding, and hopefully as you grow, increase. And depending, there are just a line of credit, you can borrow, pay down. We have other tighter structures tied to your receivables and inventory. And then bigger companies that really require a lot of financing because they have a lot of current assets. We do have at the bank an asset-based group. But based on the poll Christy took, most of you have less than 20 employees, so you're probably looking more at our traditional line of credit. Here's some more on this, most of probably what I covered. And this is sort of a business loan checklist. Sort of what you need to have together when you do meet with that provider. So I hope I didn't go over too fast. It's a little more complicated, but this is a high-level overview. The idea to give you an introduction for anyone that's just entering into the world of accessing capital. And then any of us in the room are happy to have a follow-up conversation with you. Does anyone have any questions at the moment?
I'm gonna ask a simple question, Nancy, or I think it's a simple question. We had some people that were concerned about their credit, or where, how extended they are. What does somebody who has strong financing applications, somebody that has a weak financing application look like?
Okay, so there's really two things that we look at, and I hope this doesn't get too high. It's operating leverage and equity or balance sheet leverage. So operating leverage is your amount of free cash flow available to cover your debt and your total debt. And it varies because if you're borrowing to, the traditional number is 3-to-1, but if you're borrowing on real estate and we already loaned you 80 cents on the dollar, you're already at 4-to-1. But that has a much longer amortization schedule. So the operating leverage number is really how quickly can your cash flow pay back your debt. And then we look at, is it equipment debt, is it real estate debt, what's the blend? And then on a balance sheet leverage, it's how much debt do you have compared to the capital you've invested and hopefully over the years retained by retaining profits. And again, the target number is 3-to-1 in the textbooks, and et cetera, but again, depending on the assets, the life of the assets, I'll date myself, like printing presses, I don't think we have them anymore, but they used to have a 10 to a 15-year life. So we do a 10-year loan, Now technology, a laptop is, 3 years, you're lucky if there haven't been 16 changes. So you don't want to have a 10-year loan because you're going to owe a lot more still on that asset that you can't, and you have to replace it.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm curious, if I'm a small manufacturer, I've got a big order because I have to buy material. And the thing that I'm making is going to go into another component that's sold overseas. Do you work with the SBA so that if I have a line currently and I need a lot of money, doesn't the SBA have a program around supporting?
Yes, they do. And I am definitely, because I know that's in Eli's presentation, so I don't want to steal his thunder,
Sorry.
but it definitely is a cash flow need that many companies create. Now we're hoping that we have more manufacturing here that stays here. So we don't have that international component, because then you're selling to a US company, that's a receivable, and that's an easy finance on a line.
And what's a typical time frame to open up a line?
For an established company that's been in business for 2 or 3 years, has positive cash flow, soup to nuts, 6-8 weeks. We can do it quicker, but I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver than tell you 3 or 4, and your first experience with the bank, it's our bank or another bank, it's 5, and it's like, oh, ooh. So 6 to 8 is to, do proper due diligence, understand, give you, the borrower, time to review the documents, understand what the bank's asking for. I will say, for smaller businesses, we do all our documentation in-house, so that does keep costs down, because unless you want to use an outside attorney, we're not using an outside attorney, and I don't know if anyone's seen attorney bills lately, but those hours add up really quick. I mean, I've had situations where the word reasonable cost the borrower $3,500, because it was in the documents, or the attorney added it to the documents probably 30 times. Yes.
So, Question, we are a wholly owned C Corp now, used to be an S Corp, that is owned by a foreign entity. So our biggest issue, we have positive cash flow, capital equipment loans, no big deal for investments, but line of credit has been impossible to get. We have very positive cash flow, but we just can't seem to land on a bank that's willing to work with us as a wholly owned C Corp.
Okay.
From Swift.
Yeah, no, we do that. I'm assuming you're making a product and you're generating receivables.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
But we master wholesale and manufacture.
Okay, so we would look at the inventory, your raw materials, your finished goods. We'd look at the AR you're generating, who are your clients, how quickly is your AR being paid, what's your history of collection? Have you had no bad debt, or have you had taken a couple of flyers, etc.? And so we factor all of that in. So traditionally, advance rates on inventory go anywhere from 25% to 40%. And these are numbers that you don't report monthly or anything. These are how we right size the line. And on AR 70 to 80, there's a few factors. How quickly are your clients paying you? Bad debt history. Is there major concentration? So if one client strings you along, you have more issues, things like that. But no, we have, and we'll get a little creative. We're working on one now. I am was a former client of mine. I'm now in the credit role. I used to have my own client base. It's $2.5 million line to a company that is based in, they're based in the US, their parent is based in France. And we will probably do something like a quarterly asset test, something very simple. And we do limit distributions to the parent, clearly.
Yeah, there's a little bit more noise in there.
Yeah.
It's just.
There always
We
is.
did move forward with an agreement that we have to get legal to break out of, because the statements that went in there from the bank about they would take over finances if we skipped one payment. So it was just, there's a lot of concerns that came up with the international.
We'd be happy, either myself, Randy is my cohort that covers Boston, or one of the RMs here, somebody would be happy to have a much more in-depth conversation with you, but I can tell you, yes, we do it. And he's giving me like the
Yeah, I'm
hook.
giving you the hook. So we are gonna break out into sessions, as Christy said, so we just wanna make sure we get to everything presented today, so.
Oh, I have two more things. One, Joan Palazzo, who's in the room, Phil Morley, who is not, but there are folks from his team. They're the market execs, myself as the market solutions advisor. Our emails are in the presentation. And if you reach out to any of us, we'll direct you to the right spot, because we have business bankers, we have senior business bankers, people that will cover a company that does $1 million in sales, and people that will talk to a company that does 100, 150 million in sales. So we can be your gatekeeper and direct you to the right person. And the last thing I did want to say is, I did want to put a plug in. This relationship with MassMap started. We weren't doing shots, we were having a beer. It was beers and gears. It's evolved to innovations and libations, but it's done quarterly at different manufacturers and a local brewery or winery or distillery, I guess. And it's a great way for, we at Bank of America feel like we're supporting the local community, and we love the partnership with MassMap. Now we're done.
Nancy's solidifying our drinking relationship. But it is in Western
It's
Mass.
all after 5.
After working hours. All right, so here we go. Now we're going to turn it over to Eli and,
I got you.
did I go too fast? Okay, good.
He's got
Oh, you're the fancy guy over there. So we've talked about borrowing. Now I want to talk about money oh, no, that's not where we're going. Now here is where it gets interesting. If Bank of America offers conventional financing, and for a lot of manufacturers, that's exactly the right tool. But for the others, an SBA-backed loan can mean a lower down payment and a longer term, and a rate that protects your cash flow in ways conventional loans don't. Now, don't forget, Bank of America is an approved lender for the SBA, so it goes right into you, Eli.
All righty. So good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. All right. I can be loud, without the mic. So thank you to Mass MEV for having us. My name is Eli Spayu. I'm the Deputy District Director for the Massachusetts District Office. A pleasure to be here. Certainly we are here to support small businesses, and I know there are several manufacturers here in the room, several small businesses, along with our good friends, from Bank of America and other institutions as well. At the SBA, I guess SBA has been around for 73 years now. So we have seen a lot of down cycles. We've seen a lot of different industries, rise and new businesses and new ideas form, and we've helped them all, right, through the good and the bad during our 73-year history. But one thing I do want to state is that we are not your father's SBA, right? So the changes that we have implemented under the most recent administration in particular are historic in nature, I think. And what I do want to talk about, I know this is an access to capital, a workshop, and we're going to focus on some of the, loan programs that we have at the SBA. But I do want to stress the point of the support that the SBA provides for all small businesses across the nation, in particular manufacturers, of course. So I am a recovering lender, if I may say, so I love numbers. So there are 36 million small businesses in the nation. We heard earlier today there's 6,000 manufacturers here in Massachusetts alone. But we are a nation of small businesses, right? 1 in 10 Americans is a business owner. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes us a great country and a great economy. Manufacturers alone throughout the U.S. generate $1 trillion in revenues. And you think of some of the larger names that we know as far as manufacturers, but 99% of all manufacturers are small businesses, okay? That's a huge number. 5 million people employed by manufacturers across the nation, and the average manufacturer generates $5.5 million in revenue. So they're relatively small. So again, right, we say at the SBA that small business across the nation is big business, and we are here to support all the small businesses, but in particular manufacturers. So I do want to go over some of the things listed here on the slide, but my focus today is going to be on the Made in America Manufacturing Initiative. And many of you may have heard this. This is the biggest, I think, push we have at the agency, and we're trying to support manufacturers in a variety of ways. So we are, we're cutting regulations. For those of you who stay up on the politics, and it's hard not to nowadays, we are supporting businesses through tax cuts. The big beautiful bill, certainly provides a lot of, incentives for small businesses, especially on the research and development side of things. Expanding access to capital, of course. Workforce training and development, that's new for SBA. We've never had such a focus in the past. And we now have a dedicated support frame and infrastructure for small businesses and all the partners in the manufacturing ecosystem. So how are we helping small businesses? Well, first and foremost, we, for the first time ever, created the onshoring portal. So this is, a public-private partnership that SBA put together with the help of 4 industry-leading search platforms. Many of you may be familiar with some of these names, so IndustryNet, ThomasNet, Connex, and IQS Directory. Those are all free to all manufacturers, right? To access and connect with other manufacturers, suppliers, and producers across the nation. So we are strengthening the supply chain by connecting people with one another, so people can easily find other manufacturers and partners for their operation, right? And obviously, raw materials, all domestically produced. The other aspect of our work, which is again new to SBA, we do have our Office of Advocacy that some of you may be familiar with, but for the first time ever, we created the red tape hotline removal. So this is a website that was built with the intent of giving small businesses a stronger voice, right? So for the first time ever, you can directly report regulations that are too burdensome for your business, too costly, right? That you want the federal government to actually review, revise, or eliminate altogether. So this is your way, right, of raising an issue that is hindering your operations to the federal level. So certainly I want you guys to make a note of that, because the administration wants your feedback. And this is the best way to do it. Just to summarize altogether, right? So starting with the supply chain and the onshoring support, counseling, technical assistance, all the different access to capital loan programs that we're gonna get into now are our way, right, of supporting manufacturers and strengthening the supply chain here in the country. Obviously, we are a government agency. Certainly we're here to support the businesses and the jobs that depend on those businesses. So getting to the loan programs, I think this is something that may be of interest to many of you. We understand at the SBA we are not the only game in town, right? But we are an important player when it comes to access to capital loan programs. Now in Massachusetts alone, we touch on average about 2,000 unique businesses, right, with access to capital programs. An average year for us is $1 billion in lending. So that's, for the lenders here in the room, that's significant, right? That's $1 billion in the balance sheets of small businesses across the Commonwealth. And that's just one of 68 district offices across the nation. But our two main programs are the 7A, right? This is our workforce. This is a program that it's a pretty versatile overall working capital type program. And then our 504 loan program, this is our economic development tool that's designed primarily for equipment financing and real estate financing. So on the slide here, you see any legitimate business need can be financed with an SBA loan. But we cannot do the work we do without the help of our lenders. So I mentioned earlier, supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem is critical to the SBA. And without our lending partners, we truly cannot reach the small businesses that, need our help. So certainly, folks from Bank of America here, Bank of America is a preferred lender of the SBA, but we do work with well over 100 different lenders here in Massachusetts alone, right? And in order to get a 7A loan, you cannot come to the SBA. You have to go to a bank. And we provide a guarantee on those bank loans. So we can guarantee anywhere between 50% all the way up to 90% of the debt as our incentive, right, to get the bank to say yes. So there are several benefits to an SBA loan, of course. But again, on the 7A side of the house, without a bank, it's impossible. So your banker is your friend, right, and should be a trusted advisor, should be part of the team. To Christy's earlier point, right, it should be someone who is part of your advisory team, right? Just like you have an attorney, you have a CPA, your lender should be part of that, inner circle. So doubling the loan limits. Our 504 and 7A loan program, currently have a combined limit of $5 million. So I'm gonna be speaking into further detail about some of the newer programs, but in general, right, the maximum loan amount that any one business is eligible for is $5 million. Okay, with a guaranteed portion of 75% of, or 3.75 million. Effective July 4th, right, this is one of the major changes that we made, right? So we are decoupling those two loan programs from one another. And now a borrower is eligible for $5 million 7A loan and a $5 million 504 loan. So a total of $10 million altogether. So it's really this empowers lenders, right? And it gives them the tools to help more small businesses, okay? Now, this is available for all businesses, but for manufacturers, we did something which is pretty unique. So, and this is effective May 1st. What the SBA did, we made a determination that manufacturing businesses operating in NAICS code 31, 32, 33 are negatively impacted, adversely impacted by unfair trade. Therefore, are automatically eligible for our international trade loan program. My timing was the worst. I was planning on that. But a 90% guarantee, right, for domestic use of our 7A loan guarantee program. So for all the manufacturers here in the room, I think, when you think government, you think grants, this is the next best thing to one. Okay, a 90% guarantee. Obviously, what our programs are well known for is that you can underwrite on historicals, but you can also underwrite on projections. Okay, we require the least amount of down payment on pretty much all the different programs and provide the most generous terms, okay, as far as the repayment goes. So this next program, this is specifically, again, designed for manufacturers. So we call this the MARC loan. MARC, this is after you, I have to tell you, okay? But it stands for Manufacturers Access to Revolving Credit. So again, only available to manufacturers, NAICS codes 31 to 33. And what makes this program unique, again, is, it's working capital only, right? It goes all the way up to the $5 million limit, but the terms are very unique. Okay, so although the program was available starting on October 1st, you guys may remember we had that wonderful 43-day shutdown. It truly became available after the shutdown. What makes it unique, again, it carries a 75% guarantee. It can be a term of 10 years, or it could be a 20-year loan with a 10-year term and, 10-year revolver and a 10-year term. Okay, sorry, this is too sensitive here. So it can be used for working capital. Some debt refinancing can be done if it is part of, a revolver being taken over by the MARC, but it can be underwritten on historical cash basis or projected cash basis. And as long as you break even within the first 2 years, now we understand manufacturing is capital intensive. So in many cases, if you need to expand, if you need to buy new equipment, and we're going to underwrite this loan on projections, you have to show a debt service coverage of 1-to-1, right, within the first 2 years. So I think for the bankers here in the room, I see a lot of heads nodding. That's an easy sell, right, to the bank. So collateral, we're not asking for first lien position. We're not asking for priority lien positions, right? We're asking for a UCC filing on all business assets. Pretty easy, pretty basic, pretty simple. Back to some of the, the grant options, and again, this is to support the ecosystem throughout, the state here. We have the Empower to Grow grant opportunity, which is a $50 million grant for the first time available to manufacturers or entities that support manufacturers. So our Empower to Grow grant is going to go to 10 different recipients, meaning that each one is going to receive $5 million. We're hoping to have one here locally. I'm looking at the MEP folks. Okay, guys, I want you to apply. We also have these 3 opportunities coming online pretty soon. One is the Federal and State Technology Partnership Program, a relatively small program, but it helps with workforce development. So again, I wanna, I'll point that out. The Growth Accelerator Fund competition, another notice of funding is gonna be coming out soon. And then we also have the Regional Innovation Cluster. Again, this is specifically designed to help manufacturers, right, on specific industries like the welding perhaps, and some of the, the trades aspect. But it's all designed to support and build that skilled workforce that the manufacturers need. So with that said, I think I am on time. Alrighty, any questions?
I have a question, Eli, and I'll let everybody else let it settle in, but we have a couple of companies that rely pretty heavily on DoD funding, and they are struggling right now with the speed of which that funding is coming to them. So something like the Mark loan seems like a good option for them. How long does it take from applying to actually getting it?
So, that's a great question. The Mark loan for us, right, again, it's a guarantee loan program. So as quickly as your bank can actually get it approved, if you work with a preferred lender, they don't really need to send it to us for our approval. They can approve it in-house. So if Nancy said that they could get something done in 6 to 8 weeks, they'd probably get a Mark done in about the same time or less, right? When it comes to timing of loans, and let me just state this real quick. Again, there is no such thing as a former lender. It stays with you forever. The outcome of a loan is as good as the quality of the input, right? Like anything else. Manufacturers understand this, right? So you submit the paperwork, what's required on time. The bank and the banker is going to do their very best to get it done as quickly as possible. However, if there's documentation missing, things are not in order, certainly it's going to take longer. The delay is not necessarily on the part of the bank. I mean, banks are in the business of generating loans and generating revenues through the interest income, right? But the bank is your partner, right? We think of the partnership we have with the banks, right, as a 50-50 partnership, right? What's good for the geese is good for the gander. So it truly is, I think, and I say this often, collaboration is the original currency. Right, so I think folks, you want your banker to be on your side, you want your banker to be part of the team, and communication, to Nancy's earlier point. We saw it during the pandemic, right? That banks, stepped up and they helped businesses when they needed it most. During the pandemic, many of you may remember, 9 out of 10 businesses received SBA assistance, right? And I think, again, the PPP loan program, for some reason that's still engraved in my brain, that Paycheck Protection Loan Program, I try to forget, I can't. It would not have been possible without the help of the bankers, right? So certainly it was by far, in my opinion, I think, the best public-private partnership we've had in decades. So, my long-winded answer.
Eli, you mentioned earlier in the presentation, you called out R&D, research and development specifically. Is there something special about that, or does it kind of fall under the umbrella?
So under the Big Beautiful Bill, we've attended several, trainings from the IRS, and we've actually held joint trainings with representatives from the IRS. There is a tax credit for research and development under the Big Beautiful Bill. So that's what I was referencing.
Okay, and there was in the past, then it went away, correct? And is this new again?
This is the new one. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. This is the
So
most recent legislation.
that could be a big one
It
again
is.
now.
It certainly is. Alrighty.
Right.
Now you get the hook.
I think we need to be as loud as next door, so let's hear it for Eli.
I think if they came over here to tell us we were being too loud.
Wow. All right. Oh, now we got a competition. I love a good competition. I know how to turn up the volume again. All right. All
right, so we've heard from Bank of America, we've heard from SBA, and now we're gonna go into Lilly. So if borrowing is not the need and you need free, we're gonna invite Lilly up here from the Center Advanced Manufacturer to talk about the opportunities and options they have. Woo!
I think Kristen all day long is still the clicker for me. I'm so excited.
Thank you. Ron, should I be faster? Should I make up time? Should we be faster?
That's Sarah's call.
Sarah, what do you think?
I think we're okay.
No, I think we're good. We're good.
So,
We're good.
hi, everybody. So again, Lily Fitzgerald, I'm the director of the Center for Advanced Manufacturing, or CAM, as it's commonly referred to at Mass Tech. I tried to really pare down my slides, but then I realized I don't have a bunch of useful information. One is my email, should have been somewhere. My last name is Fitzgerald, like F. Scott, and it's at masstech.org. If you go to our website here, cam@masstech.org, cam.masstech.org, our emails are everywhere. So just in general, Chris.
I will add it before I
Perfect.
send out the slides.
Perfect, thank you. So I think I saw the number one issue with getting access to capital was lack of awareness about what's available. I hear you, that makes sense. There's a lot going on. There's a lot available from federal institutions like those you heard so far, and there's also a lot in Massachusetts. All of it starts with M or Mass, and it's impossible to navigate. So meeting people is probably the most important thing that you can do. So please reach out to me, and I would be more than happy to follow up on any of the stuff that I'll share briefly. So I'm a state employee of Massachusetts. Mass Tech is a economic development agency that is state funded to distribute funding and enable the innovation economy. And we have 7 divisions that handle different parts of that remade. And this division, CAM, is asked with supporting manufacturing. There are 6 of us, and we distribute about $20 million a year into this ecosystem. As far as this goes, actually, just a quick note, it's pretty rare for a state to have dedicated employees just for focusing on manufacturing. It's all my team does every day. We don't have to think about other parts of the economy. We just simply focus on manufacturing. So the state of Mass definitely sees the importance of this sector. So there are 2 industry grants that companies can apply for. We do other work. We're a big convener. I'll show you. I'll have a quick link on our biggest event at the end of this. We also do a lot on the workforce development side of the house. So if you have interest in supporting your hiring needs, that's also something you can talk to me and my team about. But I focus these slides just on our capital equipment programs because of the focus of this session here. So there's 2 main grants, as I mentioned. The first is M2I2, stands for Massachusetts Manufacturing Innovation Initiative, which is way too long, so we call it M2I2. This program is designed to support hard tech products, so products that are physical. I don't have to tell a group of manufacturers this, but I got a lot of software companies calling me up asking for money. The answer is no, you gotta make a product, you gotta manufacture something. So this is for hard tech products, physical, and they have to incorporate latest and greatest technology, so something high tech in this space. But it really crosses so many different sectors. So precision manufacturing, additive manufacturing, bioindustrials, electrochemical processes, robotics, sensors, microelectronics. There are a lot of chemical engineering innovations. It crosses so many different parts of the innovation spectrum. This is specifically targeting technology readiness levels 4 to 6, if folks are familiar. So you have a functioning prototype, but you need to start testing that prototype in additional environments beyond the laboratory. So you gotta go into the field, you gotta get it into the hands of your customers, into the environment that it would be used in. And in general, this is when you need to do validation and start pilot scale manufacturing. This is a really important moment for a lot of reasons. It's technically brutal. Manufacturing is very difficult, and many engineers underestimate the challenge that they'll face when they get to the manufacturing stage. It's also a challenging point for many companies to receive funding, and so unlike loans, which as we've heard are available for startups, which is such a critical part of their journey, so many of these companies are relying on private investments, and that this can be a phase that investors are hesitant to invest in. And this is specifically for capital equipment, which again, a lot of investors are not overly thrilled to be investing in, and so that's what this program is targeting. So this is just like an overview. This has existed for 10 years, which is actually quite unique for a state grant, and it really is reflective of the fact that the state does understand that we invent things, as I think Senator Moore maybe was Rep Roy said this morning, we invent a lot of stuff in Massachusetts, and we really want to make that stuff here too. And so we have invested over $120 million. Companies are required to provide a one-to-one match, which means that you have to invest an equal or greater amount as the amount that you're requesting from the state. I'll say these days, this program is generally between $300,000 and $900,000 worth of capital in a single award, and so you have to have the same amount as a match. A lot of folks have figured out how to use other costs that they'll have that they might get a loan to cover for their match. And so we invest in equipment. The rule is that you can't take the equipment that we help you buy out of state for 5 years, because if you're gonna pick up and leave to New Hampshire the next day, that's kind of a lose for taxpayers. But when you're thinking about that match, it's a really great idea to piece together both other forms of investment, maybe federal funding. A lot of folks use like SBIR funding, DOW grant funding, whatever it might look like, and also to use loans to kind of piece together an overall project investment. And so we've invested in over 100 projects, and 230 different organizations have been involved here. So this is our oldest standing program. Next, this is probably a bit more fitting for the audience that's here. So our MMAP program, stands for Massachusetts Manufacturing Accelerator Program, is targeting the SMEs. And so this program has existed for 5 years, I think, but we redid it this year in an important way. So this used to be a straight grant, yes, no, you apply with a project proposal, this is exactly the equipment that I need, we either fund it or we don't, and it was up to $200,000. We realized that the effort of modernizing and scaling up and using AI, using robotics, digitizing, all of that is really needs intensive for businesses. And we were seeing that there were gaps in our return on investment, because just handing a company a check without a ton of support to wrap around that wasn't necessarily creating the results that we expected. So we converted this year to be a true accelerator that provides hands-on guidance, partners every manufacturer with a nonprofit partner, like MassMEP has been one, that will do a third-party assessment, come join you on your floor, have really in-depth conversations with your teams, understand where your bottlenecks really are. I think this is so important because as someone who used to buy capital equipment for a technical firm, there's a lot of roads that you can go down that are actually not going to be the highest leverage for you. There's a lot of things that look like they might be interesting to automate that actually make no sense to automate, right? It shouldn't be in the top 10 list of things that you invest in the near term. And it shouldn't really be based on who you happen to have sales relationships with, right? Like some salespeople are really convincing and more accessible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right fit for your business. And so folks like MassMEP, these nonprofit partners come in, bring in all their expertise, take a huge burden off of these recipients to understand what's really needed. Then they come back to us, the nonprofit and the manufacturer together, propose a project that's now up to $300K, and we'll invest in that equipment for you. This has a lower, I don't think I have it on this slide, we actually also lowered the match requirement, where if you're getting 100K or less, it's only a 50% match. If it's above 100K, then it is a 100% match. And we invest really all over the state. Very briefly, this is just the impact of this program so far. So like I said, MassMEP has been a key partner here, along with Forge and the Berkshire Innovation Center, who both are here today. We've invested over $20 million over the last few years into 128 different companies. So super happy to answer questions on that. We often get, somebody named these things in a very similar way, 4 letters, they start with M, I don't know who did this, but it can be a bit confusing. So just to reiterate, MMAP is really more for small and medium manufacturers who have commercialized products. You have real revenue, you're profitable, but you might need to modernize, scale up to stay competitive. And so capital or capital software with maximum of 300K. M2I2 is for startups and designed to reach products that are on the pathway to commercialization. Still, it's capital equipment as well, but commonly up to 800K. And we're really strict about what public benefit looks like for those projects, because these are frankly riskier investments based on the stage of the company. So we look for a lot about, what's the technical promise, the commercial viability, how many jobs is this likely to create? And then lastly, I mentioned we do a lot else besides these capital grants. We do a lot of convening on a bunch of different issues that are really relevant. My My team at MassTech is very involved in the SHIELD initiative, which they were talking about next door, the annoying folks who keep yelling, you know, so rude. But the Defense Initiative is out of MassTech. We did 100 convenings for that in the last 6 months. So MassTech as a whole, there's tons and tons of meetings. The biggest event that I think is put on by the state is the manufacturing matchup. It's about 2,000 attendees. This is the event that we have hosted at Gillette Stadium the last 2 years. We recently announced that this year it's going to be on Tuesday, October 27th. Free to attend. Businesses can get a table for $1,500 or more if you want more like advertising capacity. But we have a lot of really in-depth conversations and structured like speed networking and a job fair and an exhibitor hall with tech and hundreds of high school students and college students, community college students that will be there. So we'd love to have y'all join us. That is Tuesday, October 27th. Can I answer any questions about any of that? Yes?
Yeah, so on the two grant programs that you're talking about,
Yeah.
either one of those for a manufacturing company require a partnership with some other organization, and if so, what?
Yeah, they both require a partnership, but they look different in that requirement. So MMAP, because of the format change that we have now, so you apply to the accelerator, and what you're applying is like, I want to be part of a cohort of companies that are all, you know, investing in your modernization and scale up at the same time. We will assign you a partner, one of 3 nonprofits, like Mass MEP. And so you don't really actually have to worry about it when you're applying anymore. And this also used to require you to have a budget that you submit that say, I need this exact piece of equipment, this is how much it's gonna cost me, this is like the overall cost of the project. We shifted that, so instead we're actually just asking you, what are your pain points? What are your growth opportunities? What product lines are doing well? You know, what have you done so far on modernization? And I want to be really clear, not to scare you off. Like, it's actually fine if you have done almost no modernization. And we have said no to many companies that are actually like just too far along, and they're just not the highest need in the state. And I will say, look out for this one because we expect this to reopen it very soon. And then for M2I2. You do actually have a partnership up front that's also with a nonprofit that's based in Massachusetts. This one overall, the application process is a little bit longer. You have to have a concept paper first and then have that accepted and then do a full application. These are bigger awards, and the demand for that one is absolutely very high. And so especially in this current funding environment, like this type of funding has become more difficult to come by. But yes, you do have to have a partner in both cases.
And then the MMAPs, before you're saying it's for capital equipment, but you said also for capital software.
Yes.
What's capital?
What a great question. So the reason why we have the capital requirement is because these are coming from bond dollars, and bond counsel lawyers tell me that means they have to be invested in expenditures that will be capital on your books. So equipment, that's quite straightforward. If it's above your capitalization threshold for your business, and it's a piece of equipment, that's a capital equipment. Capital software, so this used to be more common. Think of when you would buy a license for a piece of software. That is a capital expenditure because it's one time. Most software now is more in the range of, it's a monthly fee, right? There's a subscription-based fee. And an ongoing recurring expense like that is very unlikely under GAAP protocols to be capital on your business's books. We're seeing some changes in this space, but there are also now some combinations where you have to pay an upfront fee for a license, and then you also have a recurring cost. And so when you're anything that's a one-time basis, and if it's above your capitalization threshold for your business, likely a few thousand, then that could be a capital expenditure for software. It's a case by case. Some ERPs, we're seeing some costs be considered capital. We're trying to be as accommodating as we can be, while, you know, being legal, et cetera. So yeah, hope that's fair. Any other questions? Yes.
Is there anything as far as timing is concerned with when you're procuring the capital equipment versus when you start the grant process? Do you start the process of procuring the equipment ahead of the application process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is a point where, unfortunately, as a state, we're not able to be as flexible as I think some businesses would wish us to be. In general, you can't buy equipment until you have a project accepted by us, because we have to show that this is funding that the taxpayer doesn't like get back in the form of like loans. You know, there's a return on that investment that's clear. Dilutive capital or dilutive investment, obviously there's an ROI there. For us, we have to be really touchy with this, and so we have to show that this business might not make this investment if not for the taxpayers putting this money on the line. So we're a little bit less flexible on that front. Yeah. Yes.
If you're creating a piece of custom automation for production of something special, can you apply for that? So in other words, you're gonna build the piece, it's unique, it's not bought from a company.
Are you gonna do it in-house or use a contract manufacturer and make something custom?
We can either go outside or
Outside is yes, for sure. In-house, it kind of depends on like how small the subcomponents are of the system that you are building. Like if you're buying raw materials that could be considered consumables, like it's a little bit more borderline.
no,
You
it's
have
a
to go
machine
into
that pack a particular catalyst in a certain way.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance on that front if you're doing it in-house. I'd say if you're doing it out-house, easy if you're
If you go outside,
Yeah, that's a much more straightforward capital expenditure, but, yeah, and we could probably work with you in either case. Anything else? All right, back to Christy, thanks y'all.
Thank you, Lily. All right, so one of the things I kind of want to put these guys in the spot, and then we'll break this room out into three groups, but we worked with an M2I2 client as a partner on it. And when we got everything into us, it was partially, they were partially doing a loan with Bank of America, and they were partially getting the funding from Center for Advanced Manufacturing. We worked with the organization to say, okay, let's put this piece of equipment over here because the lien is with Mass Tech. And let's put this piece of equipment, it was a very big project that they were working on. So we put the other piece of equipment with what was gonna be loaned by Bank of America. Can I put you guys on the spot just to talk a little bit about the lien with these types of programs?
Yeah, you want me to start there?
Yeah.
Christy. So, yeah, as I said, this is a kind of a unique type of public funding that's available because it's a capital equipment grant. And so ROI and de-risking our investment looks a little bit different. So I think as I mentioned, one requirement that we have is that if you leave the state or go out of business within 5 years of receiving the equipment, we take the equipment back. And so because of that and because of the state's like legal and financial restrictions that we have, we can't, you can't take a loan on the piece of equipment that the state paid for, because in that case, we would have to be like likely in a secondary position on that, in the case that you did go out of business. That may change. These are like complicated legal things, I'll say, but so usually how it works is that somebody will buy, let's say you have $1 million project that you're doing, get $500K to buy a set of equipment from us, and you don't take a loan on that equipment. The other $500K buy other equipment and get a loan to cover that portion of it. That often has worked well for our applicants.
Yeah, and there are some build out that can be included
Yes.
in the match as well, so that's
Yeah.
something that you could look to your lender for support with that as well. So I just wanted to touch on that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And relative to the bank, we take what's called a purchase money security interest in a specific piece of equipment to secure our loan, which would leave your equipment unencumbered for you or with your loan, but we can do that and not take an all business asset lien, and that will accommodate the grant funding piece as well as senior bank loan.
And so why I wanted to give that example to you all out there is how do we look at these resources and layer the approach of how we're utilizing them. And I think it goes back to the relationship that you have with your lender, the relationship that you have with the resources that are out there. We can all work with you on how do we layer all of these resources. Before I let you all go, I do just want to make note, we provided 3 opportunities here. Massachusetts is extremely unique with the opportunities that we have. Organizations like Mass CDC, who is here today, a lot of times if you're in the clean energy sector, there's funding there for you. The Mass Life Bioscience, they have funding that's available as well. So make sure that you're reaching out. Bank of America does a fantastic job of knowing what resources are out there. They're always sending their folks to MMAP if they don't get approved through them. So please use your relationships, ask the questions. Money is out there, we just need to be a little bit creative with how we find that. So I see a lot of Bank of America folks in the back left, so I am gonna put Bank of America, oh, and Heather's here too from Mass DEC, hello. Did I do justice? Okay. So back left for Bank of America folks, if you have any additional questions for them and you wanna talk one-on-one, we'll put you guys over there. I'm gonna put Lily and Mass Tech over here on the right, so if you wanna get into any more conversations with Lily, please do. And I'm gonna put SBA over to, you know what, I'm swapping that, because Sarah's over there. So I'm gonna put Mass Tech over there, because Sarah can answer a lot of questions about MMAP as well. And Eli, I'm gonna put you to my right over here. So we'll break out for the next couple of minutes. I will say thank you all for coming today. You don't have to reconvene after this. You get to just go home and enjoy some sun. So please stick around, ask them some questions. But other than that, thank you.